Okay, let's dive right into this explainer with a pretty wild question. What if I told you that a tiny, unassuming green pod, one that might actually be sitting quietly in your kitchen pantry right this very second, was once worth more than its weight in gold? Seriously, what if I said this little botanical marvel sparked global trade routes, lured in kings and conquerors, and literally helped shape world history? Well, today, we are uncovering the hidden world of cardamom. Often called the queen of spices, this isn't just some everyday ingredient you toss into your tea. We're talking about a 4,000-year-old luxury commodity. Throughout history, it's influenced entire civilizations, made merchants incredibly wealthy, and honestly, it continues to fascinate scientists today. We're going to see exactly why it earned that royal title.
Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll meet the Queen of Spices. Then we'll look at how it sparked the age of exploration. After that, we'll break down green versus black cardamom, explore its global rituals and traditions, and finally wrap up with protecting the green gold. Let's get right to it.
Section 1, meet the queen of spices, the paradox of a pantry staple. So true cardamom originated in the incredibly specific microclimates of India's Western Ghats. Locals there literally call it green gold because, well, it's worth a fortune. It's kind of a paradox because what looks like a simple dried pod is actually an absolute marvel of nature. Get this, when scientists crack open just one of these pods, they find a staggering number, over 120 different aromatic compounds. Unlike black pepper, which basically just brings heat, cardamom is like a tiny chemical factory. It delivers floral, citrusy, minty, and eucalyptus notes all at the exact same time. This intense complexity is exactly why no lab in the world has been able to artificially recreate its aroma. Nature still does it best. And all that complexity, it's why cardamom remains the world's third most expensive spice, sitting right behind saffron and vanilla. Growing it is no joke. It needs a perfectly cool, humid climate with filtered sunlight. And the harvesting, well, unlike fruits hanging from branches, cardamom flowers creep right along the forest floor. Each delicate pod has to be harvested by hand because machines would just destroy them. Then, farmers have to carefully dry them under strictly controlled conditions. Why go through all that trouble? Because naturally ripened cardamom actually loses its bright green color, and the market pays a massive premium for that vibrant green hue. Every single kilogram represents hundreds of hours of painstaking, labor-intensive work. Moving on to Section 2, sparking the age of exploration, trade routes that change the world. It is wild to think about, but this tiny pod literally pushed humanity to cross oceans. Look back 4,000 years ago, and ancient Egyptians were actually chewing cardamom as a luxury breath freshener. It was a treasure reserved strictly for nobles. Fast forward to the Middle Ages, and you've got Arab merchants navigating incredibly dangerous oceans and vast deserts just to transport these Indian spices over to the West. Because of this trade, by the 14th century, Venice rises up as the ridiculously wealthy spice capital of Europe. Eventually, by the 15th century, Europe's sheer desperation for direct access to these spices helped trigger the age of exploration. The quest for this little pod literally redrew the map of the world.
All right, Section 3, green versus black cardamom, a tale of two pods.
When most of us think of cardamom, we picture just one single spice. But there are actually two completely different stars here, which is huge if you love to cook. First up is green cardamom. This is the sweet, refreshing floral variety. It's absolutely perfect for delicate desserts, sweetening your tea, and flavoring complex dishes like biryani. But then you have black cardamom, which is a completely different beast. It's much larger, incredibly smoky, and intensely earthy. It's used almost exclusively to anchor rich, savory curries and really slow-cooked dishes. So despite sharing the same name, they give you entirely different flavor experiences. Next up, Section 4, Global Rituals and Traditions, from the Middle East to Scandinavia. You see, cardamom isn't just a flavor. It is a cultural cornerstone. Over in the Middle East, hospitality is taken very seriously, and traditional Arabic coffee relies heavily on freshly ground cardamom. Why? Well, the spice beautifully softens the coffee's natural bitterness while adding a touch of floral sweetness. But it goes way beyond taste. Offering cardamom-laced coffee is a profound symbol of deep respect. In fact, in some traditions, rejecting a cup can be considered pretty impolite. It's this vital, everyday ritual of human connection. But here's one of history's biggest culinary curveballs. It involves the Vikings. Today, Scandinavians are actually among the top consumers of cardamom in the entire world. How on earth did that happen?
Well, historians believe the Vikings discovered it while traveling through trade routes connected to the Byzantine Empire. They apparently loved it so much that they hauled it all the way back home. And that is exactly how a tropical spice from India became an absolute must-have in the freezing climates of Scandinavia, where it flavors traditional pastries like those amazing Swedish buns, right up to this day.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Protecting the Green Gold, Modern Mysteries and Threats. The future of this living piece of history is actually under threat right now, starting with what we call the pollination mystery. As I mentioned earlier, these delicate flowers creep along the forest floor. Well, they have an absolute reliance on tiny insects to fertilize them. If you have poor pollination, you have fewer pods. It's really that simple. Farmers actually have to go out of their way to actively encourage bee activity near their plantations just to ensure a decent harvest. Without those tiny insect helpers, global cardamom production would drop dramatically. But sadly, the threats go far beyond just insects. Cardamom requires incredibly specific microclimates. That means rising global temperatures, irregular rainfall, and changing humidity patterns are all actively threatening its natural habitat. Add to that the economic side of things. Because true cardamom is so expensive, dishonest sellers are flooding the market with mix-ins. They'll throw in fake, empty shells or even artificially dye inferior pods green just to trick buyers. So here's a crucial takeaway for your own kitchen to make sure you aren't getting scammed. It's the true quality test. A genuine, high-quality cardamom pod should actually feel heavy for its size. And when you gently crush it, you should get a massive, refreshing burst of essential oils, stuff like cinnamon and limonene. Remember, almost 80% of what we perceive as flavor actually comes from smell. If you crush a pod and you don't get that strong aroma, those precious essential oils are already gone. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. Scientists are literally still discovering new beneficial antioxidant and antimicrobial compounds inside cardamom today. It's been used for centuries in traditional healing systems like Ayurveda, and modern science is honestly just now catching up to its complexities. So pause the next time you open your spice box and ask yourself this. What other ancient mysteries are still hiding inside the Queen of Spices? Because this tiny piece of world history clearly still has a lot of secrets to share.